Yesterday, after speaking about warriors, several old stories came to mind. So let's see what happens when we put these stories together, recognizing that warriors, samurais, gladiators, Vikings, these titles all connote combat or combativeness. First story, that story about the great swordsman, samurai swordsman called Nakimoto. Now Nakimoto was not only a great swordsman, but he was also a practitioner of Zen, and very often he would go to the monastery where the Zen master Hakuin was abbot. Now, there came a time when Nakimoto's country had civil war, and he was called to arms. So in his armor, he went to the battlefield. After a certain battle, Nakimoto, somewhat weary and bloodied, made his way to the monastery to present himself to Master Hakuin. When he arrived there, Master Hakuin was conducting a tea ceremony. And when Nakimoto entered, Hakuin handed him a cup of tea, and he said to Nakimoto, "How does life stand with you?" And with that, Nakimoto dropped the cup and saucer and ground them into the ground with his heel. And he said, "Heaven and earth are completely shattered." And Master Hakuin said to him, "When heaven and earth are completely shattered, how does it stand with you?" And with that, Nakimoto put his hands across his chest and bowed down in front of Master Hakuin. Master Hakuin leaned over and gave Nakimoto a sharp slap, and Nakimoto recoiled in pain from his wounds. And then Master Hakuin said, "Heaven and earth are not completely shattered." With that, the sound of a trumpet was heard in the distance, the call to Nakimoto to go back to the battlefield. So he left. Some time later, when the battle was over, Nakimoto returned to the monastery, now severely wounded, blood seeping through his armor. And Master Hakuin asked him, "Now, how does life stand with you?" And with that, Nakimoto leant on his sword, took his last breath, and died. The second story is about a warrior monk who carried a sword on each side of his belt. We'll call him Edo. Now Edo was on a pilgrimage, and he had need to cross a large, wide river. So he took a ferry boat. When he climbed on the ferry boat and took his seat, other passengers arrived, and amongst them was a tall, burly samurai. Now, when the samurai boarded the ferry, there were no more seats available. So he approached Edo, demanding his seat. But Edo refused to rise up and give his seat to this samurai. The samurai challenged him. I see that you're wearing swords at your side. What school do you come from? And Edo responded, I come from the school of winning without trying. So the samurai challenged him. I challenge you to a duel. And Edo said, yes, I'm willing to fight with you, but we cannot fight here on this ferry boat. Many people will be hurt. So Edo directed the ferryman to turn the boat towards a little island that was nearby. Now, when the ferry boat neared the bank of the island, the rogue samurai jumped out and took out his sword and said, I'm ready for you. But just at that moment, Edo took the staff from the ferryman that guided the ferry boat, and putting it against the bank of the island, he pushed the ferry boat away. And the ferry boat started to float back out into the river again. The samurai said, where are you going? I'm ready to fight with you. Edo said, this is the way of winning without trying. And finally, there's a story about a monastery high up in the mountains of Tibet, where not only did they learn the martial arts, but also the great spiritual ways. Now, amongst them was a young monk who became a rogue. He left the monastery to travel to China, where he learned those arts of Kung Fu. Now, he returned to Tibet with the idea to challenge his old master for supremacy. So when he arrived at his old monastery, his prowess had already reached the ears of all the monks who were there, and they were waiting avidly to see what would happen. But the rogue monk came and demanded that a messenger be sent to the very old abbot. And the old abbot said, yes, I will combat with him. Now, when they came out, all of the monks and all of the townspeople, because word had gotten around that this combat was to take place, and the young rogue monk stood in front of the now very old abbot, bent with age. The young rogue monk challenged the old abbot and postured in front of him, demanding a reaction. But the old abbot stood immobile, not in any way responding. With great frustration, the rogue monk postured again and again, waiting for an opportunity to lunge at the old abbot, who remained calm and unperturbed. So the rogue monk began to spit and shoot vitriol at the old abbot. And this went on and on without a response from the old master. At last, the young rogue monk exhausted himself and fell down on the ground at the feet of the old man. He crawled away in shame and disgust. After the rogue monk had gone, all of the monks and even the townspeople gathered around the old abbot and asked of him, "Why did you not react? Why did you not teach this monk a lesson?" Listening to these several stories, looking to ourselves, where is the warrior, samurai, the gladiator, the Viking in you now? What answer would you give to those who made this inquiry? Why do you not react? Why do you not compete? Why are you not combative? What is the answer that you would give as the old abbot? Where are you now? The warrior, the gladiator, the samurai, the Viking, living in the world, in life, as an arena, needing weapons, shields, armor. Where are you now? What answer would you give?